Well, Malin and Jon, welcome to the Remarkable Retail Podcast remote studio at the NRF Big Show. How are you guys?
Very good, and thanks for having us.
Sure. Well, we are at the end of the long road. So
you
imagine
guys look full of energy, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. You're like ready for another couple of days of this. The looks of you.
We have got another couple of days of it.
Well, speaking of which, we want to learn a little bit more about who you are and what you do. So maybe we'll just start there. Malin, you want to tell us a little bit about who you are and the work you do at EY?
Yeah, sure. So I lead the global retail sector within EY, and that basically means that I am working with a team to support our client teams across the globe, building the right capabilities, building the right solutions, making sure that we have great insights coming out. Jon is leading the insights team.
Right.
And being shown in the market, also partnering up with a lot of companies that's here at NRF.
Sure.
So it's been intense, a lot of meetings during NRF to catch up with those clients and partners and people like you.
And me. So I'm the Lead Retail Analyst at EY Insights. So effectively, as Malin said, I'm the guy who puts together a lot of the thinking, trends-based stuff, looking at the future, factors like that. So really working to support the practice on taking insights to market so that we can sound good with our clients, I guess.
We met, I think, almost 3 years ago, maybe in Barcelona, where I got dragged. No, I didn't get dragged, but I got cajoled into learning, going back into the bowels of the hotel to see what you guys were working on with something called large language models and AI, which I don't know whatever happened to that.
It's an old trend, right? I don't think people's eating.
But we have a bunch of things we want to talk to you about. But one of the things is this luxury client index study that you guys have put together. Malin, what is that about?
We did a study around summertime around the luxury client segment and what are consumers prioritizing in terms of different aspects when they decide what to buy and not. We surveyed around 1,600 consumers globally in 10 markets, and the purpose of that is basically to see how our clients can adapt better to the changing consumer demands. We looked at 5 different customer segments in luxury in totality, and there has been a big challenge for our luxury clients, as you all know. Given private label, the quality is getting better, and the price points for luxury has increased significantly, and consumers are obviously demanding value for money to a larger extent today.
Can you maybe just quickly describe the segments, just for people to kind of have a feel for how you parse that out?
Yes. Jon, do you want to go ahead?
I mean, the segments are just defined. It's kind of self-explanatory, but there's flexible, prestige, discerning, drifting, and beyond. So flexible, obviously, people dipping in and out of the luxury market. Prestige is probably people who really see more status in luxury and are focused in that sense. Discerning are people who are probably being picky and choosy about how they engage with luxury. Drifting are people who are much more price sensitive, much more kind of like, will I buy this item or not? Thinking much more hard about it. And then beyond is effectively people who are established luxury buyers. They spend a significant amount of money on it, and they're the highest income earners as well.
Yeah. When I was, just as an aside, when I was at Neiman Marcus, we called those people absolute luxury, and then we had accessible and aspirational were our 3. So I was a little curious just the difference. But it didn't get into, I mean, I like that actually quite a bit better because I think it's a little bit more descriptive.
A bit more nuanced,
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that jumped out at me in the study was you talk about the resell, the reuse, the secondhand market, and I think that's a market where generally luxury is kind of shied away from. We've talked to brands like Canada Goose, who've kind of done it on their own. Arc'teryx has got a great store here in New York where they both repair, which I thought was a really nice idea, that you both have a repair facility, a sewing facility, and the resell facility together. What did the study tell us about the attitude of both consumers willing to buy secondhand? We know there's some appetite, but also how the brands are thinking about it, because I think they would eschew it a little, but now they're a little more welcoming, perhaps. What do you think?
Well, shall I do the consumers and you can do the retailers? So I think from a consumer perspective, I mean, we touched on it earlier. Cost of living is going up. There's clearly a big element on price and making consumers more price conscious. So I think that's one driving factor. But
are those consumers just, as I'm thinking through reflecting Europe, are those even in the TAM, the total accessible market? I mean, of these like luxury brands, like they're off shopping other brands. They may not.
No, interestingly, I think the consumer segments we looked at spanned a lot of income groups, and I think aspirational is the right word. A lot of aspirational consumers will still buy luxury and seek luxury. But then the other thing is about market access. Most consumers will want luxury of some kind. They want to purchase luxury items, luxury products, but then the price might be priced out of it. And I think coming into it second-hand is driving that ability to get access to those products and those garments. Yeah. But then another factor is that the platforms that can do it have really escalated. So the ability to resell through platforms is become much stronger. The ability to verify and check for authenticity is improving.
So on behalf of the customer, they can trust what they're buying a lot more.
To a higher degree, yeah.
Not
absolutely, obviously. Yeah. And we've seen a lot of studies where maybe customers have been missold or misbought. So it is still an area of a grey area. But then the other thing is, younger consumers, particularly Gen Z, cash-strapped, also sustainably minded. I think there's a lot of virtue signalling now in second-hand. People actually buy second-hand, not necessarily because they have to all the time, but because actually it sends a good signal to the market on their sustainable intentions or keeping things in the market longer. There's no stigma to second-hand as there may have been a longer time ago.
Now, you and I have been on the mic before. We've both been on the mic before for the Voice of Retail. So I'm going to resurface this for this audience. Is, when I read and I hear about younger consumers focused on the environment and their purchases, I kind of caught a little bit of BS on that, because or else Shein and Temu wouldn't exist, which are the embodiments of like, I just want to keep buying, I can't afford anything, and I don't really care what's happening when those clothes are made or where they go.
Yeah, but I did say virtue signalling, right? So this points to them saying that they're going to do this. And I was actually talking to somebody about this recently, about the notion of two concurrent trends that may be opposites.
Interesting.
They can function in the same space. So consumers on the one hand will buy second-hand, and they'll say, this is because I'm giving for the environment, and then on the other hand, they might still go to
it's a savvy purchase. It's savvy. So, one of a quick follow-up on that, and then I want to turn to how the brands are thinking about it. But for many, many years, the brands, I think of Nordstrom would have have the rack, or they would have different offshoots, and they would see that as the gateway for accessibility of a younger customer who's buying a more affordable product, but it's an overstock, but still an introduction to the brand. Does one surpass the other in your mind from consumers? Are they more likely they get a double benefit? Secondhand is better for the environment and better priced. The off market is better priced, different assortment, bit of a treasure hunt. Lots of trade-offs to be made there, right?
There are. I think even with the off market though, the prices are still very high. Whereas compared to potentially second-hand luxury resale markets, I think that they're more attractive to consumers. And the other thing is that the off market isn't as accessible. So the platforms for second-hand are really strong and are very, very prevalent across the whole market, across different countries. Whereas I think for off, you may have to go to a retail park, you may have to go to a certain website. It's a bit more difficult. So the access is crucial there.
And Malin, what are you hearing from the brands? Because we've interviewed Canada Goose, and they were kind of, well, it's about time we got into this. We want to control this distribution. Yes. And maybe started to turn their minds from we have to do this to maybe there's an opportunity to do this.
Exactly. I mean, they've been surprisingly slow in adapting to this trend, and this trend is happening right in front of our eyes.
Sure.
So it's not that it's going to dilute the brand. It's actually a way to have better control, as you say, to have the trustworthiness to give the certificate and make sure you secure the authenticity. So we believe there is a strong opportunity there, but we do meet luxury clients that are still skeptical.
Right. But that's the change in mindset that you're articulating, is like we're a begrudged thing, or we have third parties do it, to like we're going to actually really adopt this, and we actually think it fits in our customer strategy, right?
You're losing out of that market otherwise. So
I was going to say, is it offensive or is it defensive, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to get loose to it. Maybe shift gears a little bit, because you get into a lot of different things in this study, what did for either one of you, I guess, or both, if you'd like to take this on, what did the study reveal about ways that luxury brands can enhance their brand equity, strengthen their brand positions overall?
So first and foremost, quality. Quality came out top of the way that consumers perceive luxury brands, and that's not a surprise, right? Interestingly, quality was seen as much more favourable to consumers than status. So, although in China there's a high degree of consumers who see luxury as being a mark of status, it was less so elsewhere in the world. Obviously, sustainability rears its head in any survey, and so they will say that. Whether or not it's virtue signalling, it's up to them. But the interesting thing for me, for brands, is much more around kind of like storytelling and kind of like being able to actually demonstrate transparently the artisanal work that's gone into it, the quality and craftsmanship. Those are things that I think that from the study we saw that consumers were looking out for as something that would validate their purchase and give them a reason to spend a premium on it.
So when you talked about virtue signaling, and the thing that I wonder about, in having spent many years in the luxury industry, people are always trying to rationalize, like we used to talk about, the $3,000 handbag carries stuff as well as the $50 handbag, right? But so you have to believe that the quality and the investment, I can use this for a long time to try to justify the price point. But in a way, it's not necessarily status, but it's, you want what you want, and you find a rational reason maybe to justify an emotional purchase. I don't know. Is that a different kind of thing? Did you find that, or is that just something that's really hard to get at in the way you did the
I think in a survey, you'll get rational responses, even though consumers themselves aren't necessarily logical or rational, and they will make emotional purchases. I do think that in that, there's a lot of the storytelling is a big factor, I think, in terms of, them believing that something, that a product is differentiated, is exclusive, is something that is making them feel special. I think those are key factors in any luxury purchase. You have to take kind of like the irrational with the rational, but one of the key things around secondhand and factors like that is that consumers are looking to make logical decisions still, especially the less income you have or the more expensive things are, the more logical you have to be about it, right?
Sure. Right? Yes, it's pragmatic.
The savvier you get. A question about your trade craft. So you've been doing this a long time, and it's not this issue, but it's many issues where customers say one thing and do another, and there's other ways to get that with transactional data. But how do you square that? Like I've talked to research professionals who kind of ask the same question in a number of different ways to kind of try to get at the truth of what people are saying. How do you think about that?
So it's not easy, right? And there's always an intention-action gap. And in surveys, consumers will always say something, and it's usually directionally correct, but the exact metric, it might be a bit overblown on one direction or another. But a good way to do it is to ask conflicting questions. So not necessarily the same question in different ways, but questions that actually might contradict each other, so that you can understand which side of the fence they're falling on. So on sustainability, for example, you can say, consumers might say that they're behaving more sustainably, but then you can ask them what puts them off sustainability, and then they can give you the answers to that. And that gives you a sense, really, of where they really lie.
I've heard of this AI. We've been talking about it a little bit. It could be a thing, as we said.
AI. Can you spell that?
RETAIL. That's how I spell AI. And failure, too, by the way. It has got AI in it. But all right, let's get to this. So, we've been talking to some folks from all kinds of different brands who say, the agentic shopping is here, it happened. They quote some number, some in some studies we were talking about off mic, some ridiculous number like was influenced by AI, which is 50% of retail, which is just preposterous, right? But I think underneath that there's this kernel of truth that consumers are now changing the way they search, changing the way they buy. Maybe that influence is more subtle than overt. So talk about the dynamics of AI and retail and consumers and the brand and how the brands are thinking about it. So John, if you want to talk about how the consumers are thinking of it, or Malin, how the brands are thinking about it, how do you want to take that on, this role of AI today?
I mean, from a retailer perspective, 90% of the retailers invest heavily in AI today, and say they're going to invest even more going forward.
Mostly at the, so far, I mean, it's nothing new. They've been doing it for 10 years. Mostly behind the scenes. But in terms of in front of the customer, that's what mostly intrigues me and how they're thinking about that.
If you compare NRF last year to this year, Everyone was talking about agentic AI last year, but now you can really see the solutions at scale across all processes, not only front end.
So last year was a trial balloon.
Exactly.
And people saluted the flag as it went up, and now every booth
now
is in.
Happening.
People want it. It's what retailers are buying. You meet with retailers from around the world. Is that what they're asking you a lot about? Is how do I adapt, my new platforms to the new way consumers are shopping?
Yeah, so we are working with our clients across many different questions aligned to AI. So everything from data governance to security to what's the AI strategy, what are we going to invest in, how do we make sure we get the value out of the investments, building the model in itself.
Renting a model. Renting somebody else's model, right? We heard a lot of that at the show. How are the consumers thinking about this? I mean, I think, if you search on Google, pretty much now you're using AI because the top results are AI, so it's almost like 100% of people who are searching are using AI.
I mean, that influence thing is very interesting because I think that, yes, you can say AI influenced, a significant amount of digital and physical purchase decisions, but where the influence comes in could be from curating results on search, or it could be from anything that the consumer isn't necessarily aware of. And to build on Malin's point as well, about picking the right AI, picking the right solution, you've seen at NRF, obviously, there's a significant amount of solutions on offer. Which of those a retailer picks is going to be kind of $1 million question for how they thrive in the future.
Yeah. Nobody wants to pick the Netscape of AI platform, basically, right?
But from a consumer perspective, the interesting thing is when it becomes invisible. So at this stage, consumers are consciously using AI for search or discovery. They might be using it to get new products. So obviously, getting search optimization for AI is a crucial thing. But I think that going forward, it's much more about how it might start curating for them, making choices for them, making purchases on their behalf, and how far that should go in terms of where would retailers or consumers draw the line before they start to reject it, or before there's a backlash or a trust issue. So I think that you need to tread quite carefully in that space. It does become a little bit murky in terms of how much you might be engineering consumer decisions for them.
Interesting.
Maybe this is a good pivot to talking about the balance, I guess, or the way to have a hybridization of technology and in-person retail. My first book, I talked about digitally enabled, human-centered as kind of an anchoring point. I think you talk about human-led retail I think it's a similar idea. But Malin, what does that mean? How are you thinking about advising? Because obviously technology is, increasing. The use of technology is increasing at an increasing rate. It's more exponential than linear. So sometimes when we talk about keeping the humanity in retail, that doesn't seem to be necessarily where the direction is moving. But how would you describe that?
Now we're talking a lot about that in our team, and as AI scale, it's going to become a commodity for everyone. Everyone is going to have the most efficient supply chain or the most individualized offer. So what is then the differentiator factor?
Right, comes table stakes, not
exactly. So that's where the human aspect comes in, and it's going to be a key differentiator. So for us, it's also about helping our clients to figure out where do you want to use AI and where do you want to still keep that human touch to create loyalty.
Sure. And is there any rule of thumb, or is that more specific to the particular sector, type of brand you are? I mean, luxury, I would assume, just in general, would tilt more towards
an overall rule of thumb. I would say that all back office processes that are not customer facing, there's obviously a lot you can automate and use AI for to drive down cost. And then the customer facing interactions, that's where you really need to consider. So for customer service, for instance, you've seen chatbots being rolled out for years, but it's not working. When you really have an issue, you want to have a human person to talk to. Or I do, at least.
And there's an element as well of people considering it to be an either-or argument rather than a yes-and argument. I think the challenge is that retailers need to balance both human interactions, both physically in store or through services, etc. But they also need to focus on AI investment, because otherwise they will be left behind. And even if AI is the new table stakes and they're not at the table, then they're not able to play.
Well, I guess I'm seeing a lot of places where technology is enhancing the human interaction, having an earpiece that's connected to AI customer center or something like that, which still keeps the personal relationship front and center, but technology is helping the sales associate take care of that. customer in a better way. So I think that's a good example.
Jon, let's take a look at looking ahead. It's 26, as we're January, we're right into the year. What are you seeing, what are you hearing from customers about what they're thinking for 2026? Is there a level of optimism? Is there a level of concern that doesn't seem to be translating into less shopping? What are the kind of 2 or 3 things retailers need to hear from you today, January 2026?
I think,
to have a good year, to have a great year.
It does depend on...
It's all on you, so...
it depends on where you are, right? So there are obviously some countries that are seeing retail growth and a lot of customer positivity. But I think when it comes down to it, at the moment, there's still a very strong perception on price as being a challenge. Mm-hmm. So I think and especially with income levels not matching it, although there's definitely an issue of kind of, I think, confidence in the market going forward. So I think retailers will need to focus on price and how they can address those price concerns amongst customers. And also transparently as well, so to do it in an honest and authentic way. So customers are going to call retailers out probably quite a lot more in the coming year for things that they don't like or things that they don't see, usually related to price more than anything else.
Interesting.
So I think that would be a key factor.
What do you think of dynamic pricing? So let's go there, because AI is going to power dynamic pricing like never before, and can retailers use it for good or evil? I mean, the perception certainly is negative from consumers. You're just trying to get more money out of me than less, but I've talked to retailers who said, well, maybe, in the QSR scene, it's 4 o'clock, I'm going to lower the price because I want to drive some sales. So there's lots of legislation going to happen around it about pricing integrity. So how do you think consumers are thinking about it? And then, Malin, I'm going to throw that to you about the possible world of dynamic pricing and all these things. So is that in the consideration for retailers? So
I think regulation will probably be a key factor here. But I think additionally, consumers would embrace anything where they think they're getting a good deal or they can get a good deal. So if you think about dynamic pricing in relation to stock and stock sales and inventory management, then I think consumers will probably be much more willing to go for a bargain hunt, a cherry picking exercise. But I think overall that there is a challenge around dynamic pricing targeting consumers unfairly, and I think that sort of thing will cause a loss of trust.
Do you do any consulting with the airlines, because they've been doing this for 20 years? Like, it's not like consumers haven't experienced dynamic pricing in a real way every day.
Or surge pricing, right? With taxes.
Sure. It's in front of them. They're not hiding it.
But there's a big challenge there with consumers, because this is an everyday thing. Shopping is something that consumers do every day, all the time. For things like airline tickets, then consumers will know when they're travelling that there might be a price premium to pay based on whether they do it in advance, or whereas this is something that consumers do all the time. So I think it's probably much more sensitive to them in terms of the way that they'd respond to it.
All right. Anything else that retailers should know about what customers are thinking? Let's talk about America, since we're sitting here in New York. Anything in America?
A lot of uncertainty. I think that they probably would want to know that there's some stability in the way that things are going to happen for them. I won't go where or anywhere like that, so that's fine. Right. I think
the weather mostly.
Yeah, I think that the notion of customers actually using tools like AI and digital is one thing, but then I think thinking more about kind of what services they could have in addition to that, or what's going to add on, what's going to differentiate for them. That's something we'll see creeping in more.
I'm going to bounce an idea off you. I think as we go down the AI tunnel very, very rapidly, I can't trust what I see anymore on the platforms. The videos are so good, I can't trust it anymore. So trust becomes a very important thing for retailers, and that's their opportunity to somehow manifest that in their physical store and then manifest that in the relationships. I think it's a potentially unique advantage.
I agree. But the thing about trust is that retailers won a lot of trust during COVID, didn't they? And then that trust seems to have kind of disappeared again, or certainly eroded a little bit. I think retailers do have a position where they can win back trust. But interestingly, when you say that about AI platforms, then to a degree, how much will consumers care about that? It does really genuinely depend. I mean, some consumers might be willing to take whatever AI feeds them and use that because it makes their life more convenient, whereas others will probably reject that, and they will be looking for something that is much more authentic and trustworthy.
Interesting. Malin, what do you think? What should retailers be thinking about in 26? I mean, obviously, they're all going to think about AI, and they're all going to think about how to use it. They probably started governance, as you say, and kind of work through that, and it's a great asset for sales associate on the floor. So there's a lot of stuff. Above all that, behind the closed doors with your best customers, the ones who listen, I'm going to tell you these 2 or 3 things, and it's going to be pretty important for 26?
There's still going to be a lot of focus on cost optimization, I believe, in the next year. So even if we hopefully see some light in the tunnel soon.
And it's not a train at the other end.
No.
Yeah.
Hopefully not.
Yeah.
So that's a top priority for most of our retail clients. Also getting the foundation right. So.
And haven't they done that? I mean, after COVID, the COVID era, everyone figured out, oh my God, I have no visibility in my supply chain. I talked to a lot of retailers who reinvest in their ERPs. Like, we feel like if you don't...
Still a lot of that to be done.
Still a lot to be done.
A lot of retail clients who are... Maybe retail hasn't been in the forefront of the changes. Other sectors has done it earlier. So there's a lot of ERP rollouts, a lot of getting the data foundation right, setting up the infrastructure and policies and governance. So I think that would be the key sort of focus, I think, for our retail clients to get that right.
So I know we're coming up on our time, and I'm going to throw out a kind of bigger question, but one of the things I've been fascinated by over the years is, and I've found myself saying this when I get in front of retail audiences, everybody will agree that the world has changed a lot, that it's changing ever faster. And when I ask most people, do you think it's likely to change even, if you look at the past 3 years, how much it changed, do you think it'll change even more in the next 3 years? And everybody's like, yeah, absolutely. And then I'm like, well, why haven't you changed more? And I'm wondering, because you work with so many different, companies in different countries around the world, what does it take for retailers to transform, I say transform at the speed of disruption? Why are so many perpetually so far behind? You can point to a few leaders, certainly, that seem to always be at the edge. But I would say by count, 98% of retailers are always behind the curve. And of course, in many cases, they get so far behind they can never catch up. What's behind that? Do you see that changing? Are you optimistic about
I think it's a combination of a lot of different things. It's leadership. That's where it all starts.
Sure.
It's legacy systems, old ways of working. Culture takes time to change. Yeah. So it's a combination of a lot of things. I do think the change is going to be accelerating even more. We've seen that over the past year only. So we are actually looking into something interesting together around how is AI going to shape the future of retail?
Sure.
And what are the different scenarios that might play out?
Right.
So and it's quite fundamental questions. Is retail going to be disintermediated, or
there's got to be the fear of that. If you got all these,
how's the power shift going to look like going forward? So,
right. Well, that'll
gets fairly dystopian and dystopian. We do both, right? So.
Which presentation do you want? Do you want the dystopian presentation,
exactly,
or do you want the optimistic presentation?
That's right. This is why I don't get hired as a motivational speaker. I said pretty much most of my stuff is pretty dystopian. So if you want,
that's where the interesting discussions are, because different peoples have different views of how the future is going to look like. So there's no one can predict the exact
we used to call them Chicken Little slides whenever we presented. When the ceiling falls in, this is what it's going to look like. But it's not, or maybe will anyway.
But on the change front as well, there's a difference between appetite to change and ability to change. So I think retailers do have an appetite to change. They do want to do it, but they have a runway, right? People still need clothes, they still need food, they still use retail for those things. So there's a little bit of time that they feel that they have, even if they don't. And then additionally, there's money. They need a lot of money to change. And I think that's one of the challenges that I think retailers probably have, is that if you're reporting quarter to quarter, and you need to invest in AI, that new thing, right? And then also fix your back end, fix your front end. There's a lot of problems. A lot of organizational capacity gets constrained by that.
Sure. Well, when you have the answer to what the future will look like, we'll have you back.
That will be fun.
All right. We'll have you back next month. Listen, thank you both so much for joining us here in the Narvar podcasting studio at the NRF. It was a real treat to... Malin, I met you. Jon, I hadn't met you, but we've spoken before, and we really value your insight, and you're talking to such a great cast of retailers from coast to coast and around the world. So thank you very much for joining us. And last question, if they want to get in touch with you and tap into all this wisdom, how do they get in touch and learn more?
They can find us on LinkedIn.
All right, you're
just
both on LinkedIn?
Message. Yes.
Or on EY.com.
Or EY.com, all right.
Under retail.
Under retail. Yeah, that's a bit of a. I've done that. That's a bit of a rabbit hole. So let's just say.
let's just say
LinkedIn. Let's just say LinkedIn. Listen, thanks again for joining us, and safe travels back home.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.